Hi, brothers and sisters. It's Tuesday, May 8th, and I actually am so blessed that my best friend is an Iranian, an ex Muslim who became a Christian who is from Iran. And so today was a big day. Want to say, though, that the first thing was it started off with she bought me a shirt to wear, and my sister, Fairy, my sweet sister, Fairy, she bought me a shirt to wear, and we both wore it to what's called Sharing Day, where you can share what God has done in your life this year. The Bible study was ending, and you can share what God has done in your life, what the study of Romans has meant to you, what sins you've given up, what sanctification you have had, what peace and joy and hope you've had. You know, people have been given some really bad news during this year, and still the peace that passes understanding. So Fairy bought me a shirt to wear, and we both wore it. Keep looking up. Got it? Okay, so we are looking up. So we went to Sharing Day, and then we went to lunch, and we wanted to go someplace where we could be able to watch Trump's announcement. So we were looking for a place with the TV, right? Well, God is so good. God is so good. He truly directs where you walk by the Spirit. You know, in Romans chapter 8, if we don't walk according to the flesh, we walk according to the Spirit. And so, actually, Fairy suggested this place. We had been there before, and when we walked in, we knew the manager. Because we had had a little small issue there before. And so the manager was at the door, and we said, "Oh, hello, we're the Crazy Christians," and all of this. I really thought that the manager was a Christian. So we had explained to him about Muslim Christian problems. And this is just as we walk in the door. And then we got seated, and then the server came up, and it was like very cold from the very beginning, and warfare is going on all the time. It's never not going on. And this young woman had already judged Fairy and me because we had our crosses on. I don't know if she had read our T-shirts. Keep looking up. But there was already a problem from the very beginning. And not that I said anything to her or anything, but you could just tell she had a problem with us. And so it turned out that she didn't come back to our table for a while, and then this young black man came up and asked if we had been served, and we said, well, someone had said hello to us, but we don't even have a glass of water, so could you be our server? And the whole thing was God. God. We told him that we were here wanting to watch what President Trump had to announce. I guess I'll talk about that part because maybe some people are very interested. How many people have a friend from Iran? And how many people have a best friend from Iran who is a born-again Christian? I know I'm incredibly blessed to have this. Plus, Fairy has the gift of evangelism. She has an incredible testimony. I have a playlist of her videos on my channel. Her channel is Getting Closer to the Rapture. And I have a playlist of her videos. She has incredible videos, but difficult to find. And how many people watch my videos that actually go to my playlist and look and see what I've got on my playlist? You know, I've got 55 videos on divorce and remarriage, adultery. I've got, I think 7 or 8 videos on how to hear from God. And then, I don't know, maybe there's 6 for Fairy, getting closer to the rapture. But, you know, there was a nervousness. There was a concern. And actually, you know, we're very pleased with President Trump's guts to keep with the promises and not to be influenced by the powers that be, if you know what I mean. Because as he said at the end of his announcement, the Iranian people are nice people. They are good people. And they are under an evil, a truly Muslim dictatorship or a regime. It's not, the Iranian people are Muslim basically in name only. It's the same thing as Christians who don't know their Bibles. They're Muslims that don't know what the Quran really says. And they don't know how evil Muhammad was. They don't know that Muhammad murdered people and that Muhammad raped and that Muhammad had a 9-year-old wife, for instance. He took on a 9-year-old to be his wife. He had a lot of wives. So the Iranian people don't know. And they've had all these years of oppression to where they have no freedom of speech. People are murdered for speaking out, right? People are murdered. People are imprisoned. Christians, you know, supposedly it's one of the fastest growing nations for Christianity. But I don't know how they do it. I mean, we have such a soft Christianity over here that's nothing like what Paul talks about in Romans, right? Paul says, you know, all the things that happened to him, that he was willing to die. To die would be gain. To live is loss, to die is gain. You know, it doesn't take that long to just read the whole book of Romans. Just read it, the whole book of Romans. I bet you can do it in 45 minutes. And see if God has something to say to you. It's the gospel. It's the gospel. So we were sitting there and very, very pleased. Even though Iran has threatened retaliation, and I mean, I just came home. I don't know what the news has been about what the other countries are saying or what Iran is saying or whatever. I just know that these people need our prayers. The Iranians that are Christians, they need our prayers. The Iranians who are have no freedom of speech, who have no freedom as women, for instance, you know, they do need our prayers. Our battle is not with flesh and blood. Our battle is against the evil principalities of this world. And these people do need our support. Could it be that God does something to where the Iranians are set free from their captivity and they all come to Jesus? He could do that. There is nothing impossible for Christ Jesus. You know, sometimes we like to try to plan out what God's going to do, and he keeps us guessing. But overall, it was pretty amazing to be sitting there watching a TV. Actually, we were reading the closed captions with an Iranian whose family is over there, and this is a big deal. And I'm telling you what, you know, think about the courage too. I mean, she's so courageous. Um, she got born again, I think 5 years ago, and she didn't have a Christian friend. She didn't. And when she would go back to Iran, she evangelized. She gave her testimony. They all know that she became a Christian, that she was not a Muslim anymore. Um, Now, her family is, even though, I mean, her family did not, they embraced her. There are some families that would not do that, right? We know that. Um, but I pray for her family because they supported her. They do support her. And they still talk to her. And every time she went back to Iran, if there was someone in her family that wanted to turn her in, they could have, but they didn't. And God told her not to go back last year, and I'm not sure if she's going to get to go back this year. She and I pray about it, and we ask God what's going on. We haven't really addressed whether she'll be going this year, but um, highly prophetic times. Obviously, keep looking up because she is saying the same thing. She believes getting closer to the rapture is what God had told her. So I have the honor of sitting there watching with an Iranian what President Trump has to say about Iran. And she had, I won't even go into it. There's a whole lot of stuff. But anyway, as it turned out, the server gave us his testimony. He said it took him 23 years to get saved, and that both of his parents were very strong Christians. I think his dad was a Marine, and he said that when he got born again, his dad was crying, and he had never seen his dad cry before. Can you imagine praying for your son all those years to get born again, and then he does at 23? And he told me that he had been living with his fiance. They have a 1-year-old child. But when he got saved, he got out of it. And that he said he wanted to do things the right way. And that he wanted to have a wedding. And so they're not living in sin. And oh my goodness, he's a preacher. He is a preacher. I can't wait to hear from him again. And he told us that the manager was an atheist, as was this server. And but the manager, he said, it, and I believe it too. The manager was like a kind-hearted man, and he was so sweet. He really was sweet to us. But you pray for your enemies and you pray for the lost. And I told him that I said, this Bob thing that I learned at a church I've been going to, this Bob thing, having a burden for the lost, praying for opportunities, that God will send opportunities for you to evangelize, and then boldness, that you'll be bold. Well, he's got the 2 B's. And I told him this. I said, you've got the 2 B's. You've got the burden for the lost because you're a brand new Christian. You've only been saved a year. And you've got the boldness because, and I told him, Colossians 3:17, whatever you say or do as a representative of Christ. He is bold. He's like, we're going to get these people saved. We're going to get these people saved. And I gave him some of my gospel tracts, including one about the scientific facts that are in the Bible. And he said he goes to a church that happens to be called Victory Church. And I don't know, there are probably a lot of Victory churches in Atlanta. I'm not positive it's the one I'm thinking of, but the one that I'm thinking of, the pastor clearly hears from the Lord. He just says it. He says, God told me this, God told me that, God told my wife this, God told my wife that. That's the way we roll. And and he was saying, actually, when he got saved, it was not the head pastor that was preaching. It was an assistant pastor. And, a lot of times these assistant pastors actually are more bold. such as at J.D. Farag's church, there was an assistant pastor, can't remember his name, but in October, I'll put in the link, but in October of 2017, he did a very powerful sermon on the dangers of adultery on Proverbs 5. So all of us, we love to look, we do love J.D. Farag, and we love to look at all the prophecy stuff. But do we look at the Bible preaching, right? And this was, sometimes it's harder for these pastors who they have the spirit of being a pastor, to where they don't like to deliver bad news. They don't, they're not, a lot of times they're not the best evangelist, because you have to give the bad news in order to have someone so thirsty and hungry for the good news. When I think about one who is both a pastor and one who's able to deliver the bad news to get to the good news, I think about Vodi Bakum. Vodi Bakum, I believe he's in Africa now, but my favorite sermon of pretty much all the sermons I've listened to is by Vodi Bakum. It's called Brokenness. And we know that God is close to the brokenhearted. We know that God is a father to the fatherless. We know that he's just wanting us. He doesn't force himself on us. And that was what this young man was saying. God didn't force himself on him. He had a free will. He had to choose. And he said it took him a long time. But then one day he was sitting in a message, and it was like God was speaking straight to his heart. And that's when he surrendered his life. And that song, I Surrender All, I surrender all means every part of your life. And when it happens, you get a new life. And here he was so joyful, and Barry's giving him her testimony, which I would love for y'all to check out on my channel. I'm not sure I gave him my testimony. I guess I didn't, actually. But I just talked to him about, we have a burden for the lost. We pray for opportunities, and here was an opportunity not to get him saved, but to get him rapture aware. I talked to him about the signs that were here, and he was not aware, but he thanked me that I had told him. And he's already walking in purity, so he's going. It's just a question of how many more opportunities is God going to give him to share the gospel, because he is on fire. He is an evangelist. He has the gift of prophecy. He has those speaking gifts, which are mentioned in Romans 12, I believe. And then in 1 Peter 4, it says, if you have the gift of speaking, to speak the very words of God. It's 1 Peter 4:11, I think. So anyway, had a great time. Great to be with an Iranian who's very pleased with President Trump. And we are praying for Iran. We're praying for our nation. We're praying for the leaders of this world. We're praying for Jesus to come back soon. And finally, as I'm driving home, I come to a light, and the tag in front of me, y'all know how I like to look at tags, but how does this work? The tag in front of me is PIP 3330. Now, if you watched my video from last Sunday, 333 means God permeates the Christian, but the first song that we sang at this church that God sent me to was hymn number 333, I'll Fly Away, okay? And so now I'm thinking, PIP, I'll Fly Away. Promises, I haven't figured it out. Is it promises to the prophets, or the prophets I haven't figured out what the I means. I don't know. I've thought about prophets and promises. If y'all have any ideas what PIP means, I'd love to hear them. But I'll fly away. I had a bunch of rapture dreams last night. But because I had to get up and go to this Bible study thing, I didn't really get to process them. But I do remember one was seeing a door with light, kind of like that door. Looks like that. It was like there was this light through a glass door, and I'm walking through a hallway, and I'm looking at everybody else's rooms. I'm just going, wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. And then when I get to the door that looks really like that, it really did look like that in my dream. I open it thinking there's going to be Jesus, but no, it's another hallway with rooms and rooms and rooms, and then another door is at the end, and I'm still seeing doors with this light like that, and I'm looking at the different rooms. So could that have been a message that Jesus is done preparing our mansions, our homes in heaven? I'm going home. I'll fly away. I hope so. Anyway, I just wanted to give you that update. There is a lot going on, and one other thing. Sorry, I've always got things going, but one other thing is that I'm still looking too at the 20th, 21st, because the 20th is Pentecost, which of course we know. I think 3,000 were saved in one day when the birth of the church and the Holy Spirit came down. But the funny thing too is, remember when Billy Graham died, that his daughter Anne Graham Lotz, which you got to say, Lotz, like as in the days of Lot, when all of this homosexuality was going on and all that stuff, that Abraham went to God and like, God, if there could only be a few more righteous, and there weren't. And then Lot was saved with his daughters. His wife turned to a pillar of salt because she did not obey. She looked back. But anyway, Anne Graham Lotz read at her dad's funeral 1 Thessalonians 4. I think she read like verses 15 through 18 maybe. And what I did a video about reading the whole chapter of 1 Thessalonians 4. I think it's so important. But the interesting thing is, she has been talking about the rapture for several years. And then in the last year and a half, if you just do Anne Graham Lotz's Rapture Ready, she has a whole checklist of things to be looking for in yourself to know whether you're rapture ready. And the funny thing is, she's been saying, I believe that it's going to happen around Israel's 70th birthday because of the generation. We all know this, or at least those in the watching community. But what you may not remember is that her birthday, her 70th birthday, is on the 21st, which would be 7 days after the birthday. I don't know. She's been pretty brave to talk about the rapture for a long time. I did see also on a pretty vile channel that was using really bad language. They are very upset. I did not know that the CIA director Pompeo believes in the rapture. And I think he had said it in a church service in 2015. And this secular, I think it was just in the last week, the secular channel was so upset about it. So upset about it that we could have it's obviously an atheist, that we could have a Christian CIA director who believes in the rapture. They're never happy, because if a CIA director is a Christian, then you would think they would be happy, because that means that, not the CIA director. He was the CIA director. He is the Secretary of State. And actually, didn't Trump say he's on his way to North Korea? He's in North Korea now. that's the reason why these things are getting done. I don't understand why they don't understand that Christians are good people. Christians are loving people. Christians are trying to make peace. We know blessed are the peacemakers. But boy, they are mad. They are so mad. You know, how could we be so stupid to believe in the rapture? One day it'll be proven right. And we keep looking, right? We keep looking up. I'm not going to stand up again, but it's on my shirt. God bless you. Keep looking up. Our redemption draws nigh. It could be so very close. Could be so very close. God bless you. I love you. Bye-bye.